students. So we're going to cover that in today's presentation. We're going to try to make it a little interactive for you all as well in regards to using a poll to kind of get your feedback on the responses to some of the case studies that we'll go over to really give you an opportunity to understand the statement of principles of good practice. So we're going to begin with that process right now. So I wanted to share with you all what we will be using. So if you do have your cell phone, pull it on out, put it on mute, of course, but definitely bring that out. And under your text messaging, as you can see to the left of your screen, that is where you would put the number 37607. So you're going to be sending a message to that number. And then in the message, you'll enter the number to the response that appears. And we'll go over one of those as an example in a minute. Text messaging does apply, so if you have unlimited text messaging, you don't have to worry about that. But if you do not, please be aware that that does count against your number of text messages that you send out. But it is free and no extra charges are charged. The other thing is you can also use the website www.polib.com, and here you can enter the same code and just submit the response. So we'll begin with a practice question right now. So if you wouldn't mind beginning this, are you a Texas ACAC member? And you're going to enter the code in your text message to the number 37607, and in the body of your message, you will enter the corresponding number of your response. We'll give you a few minutes for that. It looks like the majority has responded, so I'm going to move forward to the next question. And so you'll still have the opportunity. For those who answered no or I'm not sure, we definitely encourage you to consider becoming a member. There's a great benefit to being a TACAC member, not to mention the networking opportunities as well as the additional opportunities during our annual conference and programs that we have throughout the year. So I definitely do encourage you to be part of TACAC. So the next question is, what is your role at your institution or your organization? All righty, so it looks like we got the practice in and everybody's getting that. So wonderful. It's good to know who's joining us for this presentation. Please feel free to continue answering as we go along through these case studies. So we wanted to first provide you who is NACAC and what is NACAC. It's comprised of over 13,000 post-secondary institutional and individual members from secondary schools, school-based counselors, independent counselors, organizations that serve students in helping them transition from secondary to post-secondary institutions. The association's mission is really to advocate and support the ethical and professional practice in really helping students transition in that process. Of course, NACAC promotes high professional standards and the social responsibility through collaboration, knowledge, and education. So how does that connect? Well, the National Association grants the Texas ACAC the affiliate charter, and from there on October the 10th, 1979 is when specifically Texas ACAC was given this charter. Texas ACAC's charter, or vision, develops professionals committed to providing the highest quality counseling to ensure students access to and persistence through post-secondary education. And this is our new vision, which recently was updated in the spring of 2013. As Justin mentioned, he is our current president. Our president-elect will be Carol Wasden from Hockaday School. Our past president, Donald Clements, treasurer, Jana Hancock, executive assistant, Diana McAfee, and this is who makes up the executive committee of our organization. Now, within the affiliate section of that are the delegates, and the delegates are specifically elected for 3 years a term, and specifically our NACAC voting members for our affiliate. So with that said, I am a delegate, and with that I have the responsibility to vote based on what our membership feels we should be moving our organization and the ethical policies within the organization as well. So with that said, the NACAC delegates, our chief delegate, Donald Clements, our college side delegates are Dara, Keith, and Justin, and within our secondary it's Chris, Sarah, Mabry, Angelica, Greg, and myself. The statement of principles of good practice are basically the principled conduct among colleges and universities, as well as high school and independent counselors in the recruitment of students in their transition to the post-secondary education. So this information can change, and it's important to know where to find these most updated changes. You can either go to the Texas ACAC website under the Admissions Practices Committee link, or you can also visit the NACAC website to get the most up-to-date changes within the Statement of Principles of Good Practice. These changes tend to happen at the annual NACAC conference that's held in various locations, usually within September-October timeframe. So what comprises the Statement of Principles of Good Practice? The Statement of Principles of Good Practice are made up of these different areas. And beginning with the core values, the core values represent the statements of the association's vision and beliefs and are the purview of the board of directors. So under the core values are specifically professionalism, in which we believe that the work that we all do in this profession is to be responsible for the integrity of our actions, as well as in making sure that our actions of our member institutions and organizations are in purview of the SPGP. Collaboration is the other core value. We believe the effectiveness of our profession is enhanced when we work together to promote and protect students and their best interest. Trust is the next core value. We believe our profession is based upon trust, mutual respect, and honesty with one another and with students. And education. We believe in and are committed to educating students, their families, the public, fellow education professionals, and ourselves about the transition to and within post-secondary education. Fairness and equity. We believe our members to have a responsibility to treat one another and students in a fundamentally fair and equitable manner. And our final core value is the social responsibility. We believe we have a duty to serve students responsibly by safeguarding their rights and their access to and within post-secondary education. The next part are the member conventions. So why are specifically these areas very important? It is the code of conduct that we are we created to ensure the equity and fairness in the college admissions process. It is a document that helps everyone remain within that integrity and making sure that it promotes the responsibility in each individual who is engaged in counseling for college. It is the document that strives to level the actual playing field among all types of educational institutions, and it is a document that protects the best interest of our students. So our member conventions, all members of NACAC and its state affiliates agreed to abide by the following. So members will make protecting the best interest of all students a primary concern in the admissions process. Members will evaluate students on the basis of their individual qualifications and strive for inclusion of all members of society in the admission process. Members will provide accurate admission and financial aid information to students, empowering all participants in the process to act responsibly. Members will honor students' decisions regarding where they apply and choose to enroll. Members will be ethical and respectful in their counseling, recruiting, and enrollment practices. Members will strive to provide equal access to qualified students through education about financial aid processes and institutional financial aid policies. Members will abide by local, state, and federal laws regarding the treatment of students and confidential information. Members will support a common set of admission-related definitions and deadlines, and members will support and enforce the statement of principles of good practice. So these member conventions are specifically geared to ensure that we all follow a specific guideline that helps direct our decisions in making sure that we're providing students the best results for themselves and protecting their rights. So the next process to our SPGP is understanding what do they actually mean and which specific are specifically mandatory and which ones are best practices. So the SPGP is comprised of 3 sections that we break it into. The mandatory practices are these areas where we all commit that and are enforced by the Admissions Practices Committee. So with that, anything under the mandatory practices, we expect members to follow. Interpretations of mandatory practices, which clarify mandatory practices, helps to distinguish and better understand what those mandatory practices are through context and an example. Of course, the best practices are representative specifically by providing a guideline, but are not necessarily monitored for compliance. So this is what is preferred for all individuals to follow, but understanding that it's important that we consider these as best practices for the organization and your institution. So I wanted to talk with you, as I mentioned earlier, at the NACAC conference that recently took place in, I believe it was in Canada, I might be wrong, but I think it was in Canada. We recently voted specifically for the board of directors within the organization of NACAC. So the member delegates are those individuals who are making those decisions at the national level. With that said, our members are also important in this process because we want them to be active participants. If you've never really reached out to your delegates, I encourage you to do that because that's an opportunity to state and ask questions about not only the statement of principles of good practice, but also of who is leading the national organization. So with that said, here are some of the specific changes that were approved by the Assembly in September of 2013. And this specifically is within each category of the Statement of Principles of Good Practice. So the very first one is the mandatory practices, IA3, promotion and recruitment, not offer or accept any reward, remuneration, from a secondary school, college, university, agency, or organization for placement or recruitment of students. The addition to this section was the items in red that state in the United States, members who choose to use incentive-based agents when recruiting students outside the U.S. will ensure accountability, transparency, and integrity. There is a super subscript in this specific section because although we accepted and approved this modification to this mandatory practice, there were some debates about the information that were contained within this section. With that said, there was going to be further clarification in the next year's conference in Indianapolis to talk a little further about this specific modification. So once again, this is where it's important as members to really engage the delegates and ask those questions to help us make those right decisions for our organizations, our institutions, and especially for our students. So under the interpretation, there was a clarification a little further about the interpretation under promotion and recruitment. Having and maintaining an official policy regarding the collection, calculation, and reporting of institutional statistics. This must include a process for validating all institutional data. This all may sound kind of foreign for you all, and it probably will because it's not in full context of the entire statement of principles of good practice. So I would encourage you, and this is my plug, that you grab that statement of principles of good practice that I know you printed out and you have sitting next to you every single day for when you're counseling students or making a decision, that you look over it and understand what these changes mean and get further clarification for these. Another specific interpretation that was modified was IA3, not to offer or accept any reward or remuneration, from a secondary school, college, university. And in this case, once again, it was more of a context of we are going to make some additional changes, but here are some additional information. Members will assure institutional accountability by monitoring the actions of those acting on their behalf, assure transparency by ensuring that the transactions between agents, institutions, students are clear, assure integrity through the actions of all involved in recruiting by following legal and ethical guidelines, and define permanent residents and international students by their immigration status. So as you can see that the very top part was giving you the change, but then the next part was really going a little deeper into the interpretation of what that SPGP standard was under the mandatory practices. So here was a change under best practices. So specifically, it was under 2BA2, allow students a reasonable amount of time, at least 72 hours, to respond to an offer of admission from that institution's wait list and gain admissions to the institution's incoming class. This offer of admission should be written or electronic communication to the student. So once again, I encourage you to look it over. I'm not going to read it all completely this time, but I encourage you to look at this information for that purpose. So let's continue on to the purpose of the national and affiliate admissions practices. So we are here as an admission practices committee to educate our members as well as the counseling professionals and their institutions regarding the ethical college admission standards adopted by NACAC. We're also here to assist them in fully integrating these similar policies and procedures into their practice. One of the things that I've mentioned during our TACAC conference is to always think about, before implementing a change in a deadline or a specific practice in recruitment or even within the counseling department, is to send those questions to us as well for review and just to ensure that everything is in compliance with the Admissions Practices Committee and the SPGP standards. So because of that, we are going to be monitoring the compliance. So as members inform us of any violations, those are sent to the Admissions Committee, and we work with every single individual to ensure that there is that ability to ensure that everyone is being heard but at the same token, the ability of reaching out to a committee and through confidential method. So if anyone, counselor, student, parent, admission officer, has a concern that the SPGP has been violated, it is important that the individual file complaint with the Affiliate Admissions Practices Committee. To help ensure that all allegations are properly tracked and followed up, it is asked that the person filling the complaint complete a confidential complaint form. And this is one of the things that most people hate to do, but trust me, this information remains only with myself. I am not allowed in any way to share this out with anybody within our organization. And it is very confidential because we want to make sure that you do submit those and that we address your concerns regarding any violation of SPGP. So here are the websites where students, counseling professionals, admissions professionals, and members of TACAC and non-members of TACAC can go find the form to complete should an SPGP be violated and you want to report such a complaint. So with that said, what is requested on the basic complaint form? And so the name of your institution, name of the institution where the alleged violation occurred, nature of that violation, and what we encourage you to do is look at the SPGP and identify which of that SPGP was violated and what you view as the violation. Because we all can view things in a different method, and it's important that I understand exactly what that violation was. And so you would email that form to your chair or of your affiliate, or you can also fax it. And so I encourage you to do that. If you do that before April the 12th, would go to myself, Ismael Rodriguez. After April the 12th would go to Joseph Miller, our new AP chair that will take office after the actual conference in April, and include the supporting documentation for the claim. Remember that names and contact information remain confidential. What happens next? The affiliate AP chair will acknowledge that receipt and check the membership status of the institution or the individual whom the allegation was filed against. If the allegation is against a member of the affiliate, the Admissions Practices Committee will begin researching the case. The affiliate AP chair may contact the dean, director of the accused institution by phone to begin an inquiry, as well as principals are part of that as well. So please be aware that it goes both ways, high school or post-secondary. If the allegation is against a member of another affiliate, the case will be forwarded to that affiliate's Admissions Practices Committee. So one thing is, well, then that's being sent out to somebody else. The reality is that they also fall under the same expectations of confidentiality. So we normally will speak with each other and address each of those concerns. If the allegation is against an institution or an individual who is not a member of an affiliate, but a member of NACAC, the case will be referred to the National Admissions Committee Practices. And for those who are not members of NACAC or our affiliate, those will go to our Chief Executive Officer, who will handle the case at the NACAC office. So how do these cases normally get resolved? Most of them are between the Admissions Committee chair and the senior member of the office within the allegation. Normally we discuss it, and the reality is that most institutions didn't really realize that they were violating such an SPGP. So with that in mind, most institutions will comply and fix the issue that was at hand. If the case cannot be resolved, then the affiliate level, the case is referred to the National Committee for consideration, and from there the paperwork is also filed with the NACAC headquarters to resolve the issue, and once again our CEO will address that with that institution. So here's a profile of complaints filed on a regular basis, or the most frequent in the past 5 years. Asking students to rank choices of colleges, the May 1 national candidates reply date, the use of incentives to compensate international agents, student information and privacy, wait list issues, financial aid officers with earlier deadlines, admission based on test scores only, application deadlines before October 15, and disparaging comparisons. So let's look at some case studies. So bring out those phones and get that website back up. So case study 1, here is one of our SPGP, Statement of Principles of Good Practice, Principle 2.B.3. Permit accepted students to choose among offers of admission, financial aid, and scholarships until May 1, and will state this deadline explicitly in their offer of admissions. SPGP's Principle 2.5.5, work with their institution's senior administrative officers to ensure that financial aid and scholarship offers and housing options are not used to manipulate commitments prior to May 1. These two are mandatory practices. So the University of Western Southeastern State offers admission to a student and tells the student that they have until May 1st to accept their offer of admission by sending a deposit. The second, the student then receives a letter from the Office of Financial Aid offering a scholarship of $10,000. However, the student must let UWSS know if he will accept the scholarship by March 15. That way, another student can be offered the scholarship if the first student does not accept the award. First question, is the offer of admissions from the University of Western Southeastern State in compliance with SPGP? So it looks like the majority said yes, 5 said no, and 2 are not sure. So let's continue to the next question. Actually, now we have it tied. Okay. Let's go to the next question. Is the financial aid offer from UWSS in compliance with SPGP? So the findings, the admissions office was in compliance because they were allowing students to deposit until May 1st. So as a reminder, the SPGP specifically tells institutions that they must permit and allow accepted students to choose a college until May 1st. So that is one of the SPGPs expected. The second one, the financial aid office, was not, because they were asking students to accept the scholarship money by March 15th. In this case, it's important to recognize that admissions offices and financial aid offices should speak regarding deadlines to make sure that they are in compliance with SPGP. By the institution asking students to choose or accept the March 15th deadline for the scholarship is almost telling the student who is not aware of the admissions process that they must select that institution. Think about yourself in this situation. If you were to receive a letter that says that you must accept the scholarship, to any student it's going to be viewed as though you're telling them you must select my institution. If not, you lose out on this opportunity. So it's important that we all recognize that and understand those specific SPGP. Case study 2. Post-secondary members agree that they will not require or ask candidates or the secondary schools to indicate the order of the candidate's college or university preferences, except under early decision. A student applies via early action to Mighty Midwestern University. In her letter of acceptance, MMU includes a survey that asks questions about her likes and dislikes. This includes a question about what other schools she has applied to and another asking her to rank the order of those schools. Is this a violation of SPGP? All righty, we're going to continue, and the findings. The big question here was, what is a candidate? MMU argued that applicants were candidates. After considerable discussion, the committee disagreed. The idea of this principle is that students should not be pressured to rank schools, either before being admitted or before sending a commitment. As a reminder, early action and early decision are also different in that sense. So please be aware of that specific information as well. Case study 3. Members agree that they will accurately represent and promote their schools, institutions, organizations, and services. Members agree that they will not use disparaging comparisons of secondary or post-secondary institutions. Regional University, part of the state university system, lists its cost at $10,000. It then says that it is the lowest priced school in the university system. Parenthetically, it states that $10,000 is based on 14 credits. However, the basic course load for most students in the system is 16 credits at a cost of $10,800. Is RWU providing accurate information? Alrighty. So the findings, this is not accurate information. Even if it is, strictly speaking, true, it may not be an insidious comparison, but it is close. The committee feels that the spirit of the SPGP is to use your own information and not that of other institutions. So recognizing that you are, in a sense, telling students that they can compare one institution with the other is not necessarily true, as you can see by the number of hours that were actually being used. But at the same token, institutions should not compare themselves with others and instead utilize their own information. Case study number 4, providing accurate information. Members agree that they will accurately represent and promote their schools, institutions, organizations, and services. Members agree that they will not use disparaging comparisons of secondary or post-secondary institutions. Hardworking Vocational College begins an ad campaign that declares the average debt of its graduates is much less than that of other in-state colleges, and lists the average debt for those schools. Is HBC violating SPGP? So this is another case where, strictly speaking, the information is true. However, do we want schools to get into shouting matches about perceived negatives? For HBC, debt is a positive factor. However, a campaign by another college may show graduation rates where HBC's is very low. Case study number 5, permit first-year candidates for all admission to choose among offers of admission, financial aid, and scholarships until May 1, and will state this deadline explicitly on their admissions offers of admission, work with their institution senior administrative officers to ensure that financial aid and scholarship offers and housing options are not used to manipulate commitments prior to May 1. Case study number 5, to remain eligible for your $10,000 presidential scholarship, you must notify us of your acceptance of this award no later than March 30th, 2013 by returning the enclosed scholarship reply form. If you have decided not to attend Very Good College, please make that indication on the form. Sign and date it, and we will cancel your admission and scholarship offer. If we do not hear from you by March 30th, we will assume that you will not be joining us at Very Good College, and we will cancel your scholarship to make it available to another deserving student. Is Very Good College in violation of SPGP? The school is making students feel pressure on making a decision before May 1st, which is against SPGP guidelines. Students will not be able to make an informed decision before receiving all financial aid offers from other colleges and universities. So once again, this is an example of a violation of SPGP guidelines. So that concludes our specific case study portion of this presentation, and I hope that you all kind of got a sense of why it's very important to understand the SPGP as high school counselors, college counselors at those high schools, and admissions officers and administrators, and working within the realm of counseling for post-secondary and secondary. It's important that we understand these guidelines to ensure that we are not taking away those opportunities for students or violating also their rights as students. AP committees, affiliate and national, promote this awareness and compliance with the SPGP, investigate the infractions, and recommend the application of penalties when necessary. Penalties may include issuance of a statement of noncompliance, exclusion from NACAC-sponsored events, as well as TACAC events, suspension of membership and membership privileges, and termination of membership. So please be aware that these are specific areas to ensure that students are, that they are a priority in all of these procedures. As I mentioned, procedure, report allegations to maintain confidentiality, know that it is maintained, notify party of alleged violation, which is our job to do. The outcome penalties, best case, after being notified, practices are amended to come into compliance, and the case is closed. When member institutions do not, this is the worst case scenario. Violation is sent to the National Committee, and recommendations for penalties are imposed by the Board of Directors. So questions and answers to report any complaint, go to ethics@nacacnet.org. If for some reason you are not able to go through our TACAC website, they will send me this information as well. Or you can contact me directly at isrodriguez@collegeboard.org. So this concludes the part of our presentation. I wanted to make sure that I hope that I've addressed it. I encourage you once again to go back to the Statement of Principles of Good Practice. I wanted to share with you all that today there is an announcement by the College Board President, David Coleman, and I think this applies to all of us in the secondary as well as post-secondary organizations, nonprofit, regarding the redesigned SAT. You will be able to view some of the updates that David Coleman will be sharing at 1 o'clock right after this presentation. You can use that link listed under there to get more information. And before we conclude, I wanted to ask anyone if there was any specific questions that I could answer for you all as well. And you can send those through chat on there, and I'll be looking for those questions that I can answer for you all. Okay. Well, please feel free to ask any questions, email those questions to me, and I'm happy to respond as well, as I'm not seeing anyone specifically asking at this time. I'm just making sure. Well, that concludes our presentation. I hope that you all will have an opportunity to look over the Statement of Principles of Good Practice, and definitely want to encourage you to help your students as well as become informed about our organization and the information. I believe this session is being recorded, and I'm assuming that it will be posted at some point or sent out to the members in case you all have any questions. I wish you all a great afternoon, and hopefully you will be able to join on this presentation to listen about the updates regarding the new SAT. Have a great day.